Hello, and welcome to this video training on using BGCA's Club Program Standards Assessment. Over the next few minutes, we'll cover why program quality is key, introduce the assessment tool and how it is set up, and give tips for the standards and measures it assesses. My name is Sarah Grizzle, and I'm Director of Youth Development Program Quality here at BGCA. For this session, you'll need to have a copy of the Club Program Standards Assessment handy, whether printed or in another window on your screen. First, I want to thank you and your team for commitment to high-quality programming. This work matters, and we are excited to embark on a quality journey alongside you. Research has shown the quality of a youth program has a direct impact on increased youth outcomes. Programs that are using researched and validated program quality best practices are seeing significant increase in positive youth outcomes. This is illustrated through the QUEST model, researched by the Weichert Center for Youth Program Quality. QUEST is the roadmap to how youth's experiences at the club can have an impact on their experience in the rest of the world. We break down the QUEST model in more detail in the Introduction to CQI training, but briefly, quality content are the programs and activities clubs offer, while quality instruction are the staff practices, standards, and behaviors that create developmental experiences for youth. When clubs offer quality instruction and content, youth will be more engaged, attending the program more regularly, and participating and engaging with content. The more youth are engaged, the more increase we will see in skill and belief development, whether academic, social emotional, or others. When youth practice these skills after school, they are more able to apply them to new settings, such as managing emotions during a stressful test, getting along with others, or applying public speaking skills to a job interview. Club staff have the most control over the first aspect of the QUEST model, quality instruction and content. That's why focusing on the types of programs and activities and the practices and overall experiences staff provide youth and their families is so important. The method for improving your program quality in a data-driven, systematic way is through continuous quality improvement. Using the Assess, Plan, Improve cycle, you will be able to train and coach staff in ways that accurately address both the strengths and growth areas that exist at the site level. In the Assess phase, you will gather information on your club and its programs. In the Plan phase, you will review that information, determine what changes or improvements should be made, and then make a plan or plans to improve. In the Improve phase, you will execute improvement plan through training, coaching, and trying out new skills in programming. BGCA has resources to support your team at each phase of the CQI cycle on the CQI Toolkit, which we will share more about at the end of this video. For now, let's zoom in on the Assess phase, which unsurprisingly is the phase where the Club Program Standards Assessment is used. In the Assess phase, staff gather information on the club and its programs. This data will be used to determine strengths, growth areas, and make improvement plans, so accuracy is important. You probably already gather a lot of what is most useful for improving your programs, including information on attendance and participation, youth outcomes, and club experiences. The Club Program Standards Assessment will give you another key piece of the puzzle, data on how your staff are implementing high-quality practices. This assessment was developed as part of the Standards of Organizational Effectiveness, or SOEs, and is based on best practices across the field of youth development, including the latest research. As many clubs embark on assessing quality practices for the first time, the CPSA is an introductory tool that will give you a snapshot of how each of your sites are meeting those basic best practices. Let's now dive into the tool itself. You'll see that there are two main standards, or overall categories that each of the measures or individual items are grouped into. These standards and measures are written at the site level, which means that each individual site should complete a separate assessment. BGCA has compiled resources you can use to provide training and coaching to staff specific to each measure. These may include training in person or on Spillett Leadership University, programs or activities, guides or playbooks, or even tags on the Club Experience blog. The response options for each measure are rarely, occasionally, or often. Throughout the rest of this training, we will go measure by measure to clarify the intent of items and give tips for how to choose your score. But generally, let's look at what each of these options mean. When you are deciding how to score a measure, keep these points in mind. Rarely means that this doesn't take place or takes place less than 1/4 of the time or for less than 1/4 of members. In other words, this is not a common practice. Occasionally means that this takes place less than 1/4 of the time or for less than 3/4 of members. In other words, this is a practice that isn't consistently implemented. Often means that this takes place more than 3/4 of the time or for more than 3/4 of members. In other words, it's a consistent norm and practice. Now, let's look at the standards on the CPSA. Then we'll go through some tips for how to best understand the intent of individual measures and what to consider as you choose the site level response. There are two main categories of standards in this tool: routines and learning structures, and programs and activities. Routines and learning structures are the way that your overall club program is set up, including components present in every session, policies and procedures related to youth and their families, and staff to youth ratios. Programs and activities are the types of learning and fun experiences you offer to youth, and how youth are given opportunities for engagement within those experiences. Here's the first standard in the routines and learning structures category. The club creates safe, positive, inclusive environments and experiences for all youth and families of every race, gender, and gender expression, sexual orientation, ability, socioeconomic status, religion or cultural belief, and more. The measures that fall under this standard are the practices that staff do to make the club environment safe, positive, and inclusive for all youth. Pause this video for a moment and read the 6 measures in the safe, positive, inclusive standard. Now that you've read all 6 measures, here are tips to keep in mind as site level leaders choose the most accurate response to each. Not all measures will have tips. These are to help make sure that we are all in agreement on the intent of measures that may be a little more tricky. So for measure 1, which is about opportunities for youth to connect, consider any opportunity that allows youth to share about themselves, their feelings, and their experiences. For measure 2, which is about materials being available in languages spoken by families and their youth, be sure to include program schedules, club forms, and other communications when you're thinking about materials. For measure 3, which is about all youth having the opportunity to meaningfully participate in programs, even where modified roles may be needed, consider that meaningfully participate does not mean every youth has to participate in the same way. Judge those modified roles and experiences by individual youth ability. And for measure 5, which is about how staff respond when conflict or negative behaviors occur, look for policies around conflict and negative behaviors and how staff and those policies guide youth to resolution and how they are followed. Here's the second standard. The club creates and maintains a developmentally appropriate, consistent routine and balanced schedule for youth. The measures that fall under this standard are practices that ensure that the club is providing a variety of activities that meet youth where they are. Pause this video for a moment and read the two measures in the developmentally appropriate standard. Just one tip for this one, for measure 1, which is about the schedule of program and activities being clearly posted throughout the club. Note that the schedule of programs and activities includes club-wide activities as well as individual program areas. So examples may include monthly, weekly, and daily schedules. The third standard under routines and learning and structures is the club maintains developmentally appropriate staff to youth ratios and group sizes to ensure physical and emotional safety, belonging, and relationship building. The measures that fall under this standard relate to group sizes, both for safety, but also for positive relationships. Pause this video for a moment and read the 3 measures in the ratios and group sizes standard. Ratios and group sizes is probably already a part of your club's planning process, but here are some tips to keep in mind. Measure 1, which is the one that spells out what those ratios are, note that they are adjusted depending on youth age and the type of activity. For measure 2, which states that group sizes should not exceed 30 and that youth are grouped in developmentally appropriate groupings, note that group sizes are for program sessions and activities and do not include club-wide events like assemblies or performances. For measure 3, which is about how staff consistently interact with children in a positive manner, note that that can be potentially subjective. Look for how youth respond to staff and for that consistent interaction. Now we move to the second overall category of standards, programs and activities. The first standard in this category relates to how staff plan their individual program sessions. It states that the club offers programs, activities, learning experiences that are planned, presented, and paced for youth. Pause this video for a moment and read the measures in the session planning standard. Here are some tips for these measures. Measure 1 is about how staff explain and demonstrate instructions and steps. Look for modeling of those instructions. How youth respond when released to complete the tasks, and how staff react to questions. This is not saying that there won't be any questions about the instructions, but it's about making sure that youth are able to successfully complete them. For measure 2, which is that these instructions, steps, materials may be modified to meet the diverse needs of individual youth, this is similar to the safe, positive, and inclusive standard that also talked about that meaningful engagement. So similar to that one, they don't need to be identical to each other, but judge those modified instructions and activities by individual youth ability. The second standard is the club offers programs, activities, and learning experiences that support active learning. In active learning, all youth are engaged to participate in the learning process, whether through problem solving, group work, reflection, discussions, skill practice, hands-on application, and more. Think of it in contrast to sitting and listening to a lecture, where only a couple of youth would be allowed to speak or answer a question. Active learning gets everyone involved. Pause this video for a moment and read the 5 measures in the active learning standard. Active learning is a higher level practice, and while your youth development professionals may already be engaging in it, they may not be familiar with the terminology or how to intentionally incorporate it frequently. Here are some tips as you assess these measures. For measure number 1, which states that programs and activities involve youth in engaging with materials, ideas, or improving a skill for at least half of the time, note that engaging with materials, ideas, or improving those skills can include a variety of formats, including discussion. The intent is to not have sessions that are dominated by lecture. Some kind of presenting information by staff can be appropriate, but it should not be the entire session. For the second measure, which is staff actively engaging with youth, look for what staff does while youth are completing activities in groups or independently. Are they going around the room? Are they answering questions? Are they engaging with young people as they work? For measure 3, which is where youth have access to programs and activities that will lead to tangible products or performances, those tangible products or performances can come at a later date. So for example, an art project that takes multiple sessions to complete, or a play occurring in 2 months. The intent is that youth are able to demonstrate what they have learned. And for measure 4, which is about shared goals are outcomes that more than one youth are working towards achieving, such as a collaborative presentation, maybe a dodgeball game with a couple of teams, or a service project with assigned roles. The intent here is to get youth working together. The third and final standard under programs and activities is that the club's programs, activities, and learning experiences include opportunities for youth voice, choice, and leadership. Your club's programming and structures should reflect the preferences and needs of the youth you serve. Within those programs and structures, youth should be given developmentally appropriate choice as to how they participate and even what experiences are offered, and the opportunity to take on increasing leadership roles. Pause this video for a moment and read the 3 measures in the Youth Voice Standard. Here are the final set of tips for this assessment for the Youth Voice Standard. For measure 1, which is around staff actively soliciting feedback from youth, look for surveys, pulse checks, or feedback sessions. These can be on a larger scale, such as the National Youth Outcomes Initiatives, or smaller, such as at the end of a program session. For measure 2, which is around youth having opportunities to make choices, note that choices can include content, which is what the youth will focus on, practice, make the subject of an activity, etc., or those choices can be process choices, which are the materials they use, the steps they take to complete a project, the roles on their teams, etc. Choices can be open-ended or close-ended. So close-ended would be you can choose from using blocks, paper, or another item, whereas open-ended is you can choose anything and should be developmentally appropriate. Measure 3, which is about staff providing a balance of activity types. This measure is looking at the balance within individual program sessions. So not necessarily across the club, but within program sessions. When your sites have completed their CPSAs, what comes next? Teams can take this quality practice data alongside other data they've collected to get an overall picture of program quality. By identifying both strengths and areas of growth, staff develop program improvement plans, or PIPs, with specific and measurable goals to work towards. Where goals align with measures on the CPSA, BGCA has resources that can support training and coaching. If you are new to quality practice measurement, the CPSA is a great place to start. For clubs who may already have some experience with program assessment or are looking for a more comprehensive tool, we recommend the Weichert Center's Youth Program Quality Assessment. The YPQA is the gold standard in the youth development field, used across the US, Canada, and the UK. The YPQA measures practices across safe environments, supportive environments, interaction, and engagement, and provides in-depth guidance for practice at every level. BGCA offers training and support at no cost to clubs, including PQA Basics, which teaches site teams to complete self-assessments based on direct observation of programming, and the External Assessor Reliability Training, which certifies verified assessors. BGCA's program quality team is also available for individual consultations on using the YPQA as part of your organization's CQI cycles. To learn more about the YPQA, visit the Assess tab on the CQI Toolkit. Finally, the CQI Toolkit, which we've mentioned several times in this video, is your one-stop shop for everything you need to support your organization's journey in improving program quality. From a readiness diagnostic, which will tell you where to begin, video tutorials, links to both live virtual training and self-guided sessions, agendas and tools for planning meetings, coaching guides, and more, there is a wealth of resources available. You can access it all at cqitoolkit.org. If you have questions about the Club Program Standards Assessment, want to learn more about building a culture of quality at your club organization, or have any other questions related to program quality or continuous quality improvement, we are here to support you. You can reach the Youth Development Program Quality team by emailing quality@bgca.org, or you can schedule a 45-minute consultation at bit.ly/BGCAYD consultations. Note that the capitalization on that matters. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation and for committing to creating high-quality experiences for the young people in your community. We are grateful for you and excited to be your partners. Have a great day at the club.